So welcome everyone to the iSH podcast. This is going to be a series of podcasts, but don't worry, I won't be hosting every one. This is the only one I'll host. My dulcet tones will then disappear and I'll be the editor or something posh like that. What we want to do is introduce some of the businesses in our region, showcase the fantastic capability that we've got here, not just for West Cumbria, but for nationally and internationally as well. So in terms of today's podcast, we wanted to take the opportunity to introduce iSH, for those of you who don't know what we do as a company, but also to introduce one of our newest board members, Gareth Frazer, and he'll tell us a little bit about himself and a little bit about his view on where iSH will go in the future. So just to let you know that iSH is based on a couple of things. One is to develop clusters in West Cumbria. That's around digital, it's around manufactured products, and it's around robotics, but also to showcase those capabilities across the world. And the second thing we're doing is helping our colleagues at Cumberland Council to develop the iSH Enterprise Campus, which is the Leconfield estate at Cleatamore. That will be our focus in the next 18 months, and over time we'll then bring to bear the iSH capability across the region as well. So I'm really pleased to welcome today's guest, and it's Gareth Frazer, Head of MPO, Manufactured Products Organisation at Sellafield. And for our viewers east of Penrith, Gareth's the proud West Cumbrian like myself, but there will be subtitles at points in the interview. So Gareth, welcome. Just tell us a little bit about what Manufactured Products is.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. So Manufactured Products at Sellafield is something that was created about roughly 4 years ago in recognition that the mission was changing at Sellafield and there was going to be a requirement for lots of volume manufacture, something that we historically hadn't done a lot of. We were an organisation that was very used to one-off, two-off, complex manufacture, what I would call project manufacturing, which tends to be quite time-consuming, quite resource-intense, and quite expensive. We now need to move into hundreds or thousands or potentially hundreds of thousands of items, and so we need to change the way that we work. Sellafield Manufactured Products was set up to help us do that, bring the right skills into the business from other industries such as aerospace, automotive, where things like volume production are, second nature to those people. And so we're still on a journey. We've built quite a lot of these skills into the team now. It's 1/3 of my organisation. There's three parts to my organisation, and Manufactured Products is round about 60 to 70 people, depending on the scope that we've got on at any given time. And we a lot of the team are posted out into the supply chain, not just in Cumbria but beyond, working on lots of the high integrity containment things that we manufacture for predominantly nuclear waste.
So we're not actually sat in a dentist waiting room at the moment. We're actually sat in the Engineering Centre of Excellence at Cleatamore. Just tell us a little bit about what this place does.
Yeah, so like I said, there's three parts to my organisation, Gary. I've got the manufactured products that we just talked about, the Engineering Centre of Excellence, which is predominantly solves problems and develops technology readiness for the site. So pre-COVID, we started to work on an off-site facility just to allow us a bit more freedom to operate outside the boundary of a nuclear site, bring the supply chain in, bring members of the public in a lot easier than we can on a licensed site. And we take real-time problems from the site, come up with solutions using quite rough and ready sort of techniques, and then we do the work with the plants where the problem is to kind of develop that solution into the all singing, all dancing nuclear solution that we need to deploy on the site. It also gives great access to the community, which is why it works sort of hand in hand with some of the work we're trying to do at iSH. We run the work experience program for engineering and maintenance out of here. We do about 6 weeks in summer where we'll get 20-30 kids at a time and give them some experience of robotics, mechanical, electrical, with lots of the equipment that we've got in here to innovate and problem solve for the site.
So when you look at what iSH is doing around its cluster development, it's almost as if the Engineering Centre of Excellence is a key part of that, and it is. It's one of our anchor organisations. But I think what iSH can do is magnify that outside of the sort of nuclear supply chain, as well as inside the nuclear supply chain. Is that something that you see, as a new board member of iSH, very recently joined, is that something that you see happening in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what Sellafield done in invested in this facility away from the site, but right in the local community, that was the start of what iSH is all about. And I see the iSH campus at Leconfield is just growth on what we do here. Plus, it gives a bit of independence from Sellafield. It's not just Sellafield, and I think we'll know when we've got it right if we have a place where Sellafield have a presence, but there is an even bigger supply chain presence wrapped around it, and problems come in for the site, and everybody can work together and solve them problems. It's almost like it's the sort of living version of an innovation framework. Actually, all the people who can do the work with the skills and everything, they're all there on the campus, ready for the problems to come in. And if what we see here on a weekly basis is anything to go by, there's lots of problems to solve. And I also think iSH could really sort of help catapult what we do here, like you touched on earlier, Gary, out into Europe or as far as Japan, where we're making contacts, because some of the stuff that we do here, you can apply that, industry-wide. It doesn't even just have to be nuclear, I don't think, but as Sellafield as an entity, we can't do that, but iSH can.
So in terms of a centre of excellence, coming outside of the fence a few years ago, that would be fairly radical, was it, in terms of, certainly for Sellafield and that access coming to the centre of Cleatamore in an industrial state with lots of companies already here. But have you seen companies come to Leconfield because of your presence?
Yeah. So we've definitely getting a lot more interest from the wider supply chain, because it's a first step for them to access the site and really show what they can do. We have a consortium called Resolve, made up of Forth Engineering, Core Nuclear, React and Comms, and they help us with the problems in here. They work together to work out which is the best athlete to do the work. We have a framework, so we've got instant access to them companies, and we also run sprint projects in here, which is now part of the Sellafield graduate syllabus. It's predominantly graduates, but anybody on the site can put the name forward to be part of a sprint, and they get 6 weeks of solving a real problem for the site. And as part of that, we use Centre for Leadership Performance to give them some leadership development and skills, and it's really good to see a group of people come together, some blue sky thinking, and then we turn that into a real solution and deliver that work on site. And we've seen millions and millions of pounds worth of cost avoidance for the site through solving some of these problems, and we've got our own talent working on them.
So in terms of those companies that you mentioned there, they're all SMEs.
Yeah.
It seems that there's a very much a focus on SME involvement, particularly through the sprints and some of the other work that you do. Is that something that you see as important in terms of localness for the future?
Absolutely. And we also get guys and girls from some of these companies on the sprints. So such as the Cumbria Manufacturing Alliance, partners in that, Bendal's, West Cumberland Engineering, they send some of their people onto the sprints, because some of the problems that we were facing for site that involved manufacturing, for instance, that they always found themselves looking for some manufacturing expertise. So when we have one that now we know is going to involve some manufacture, we try and get one of the local manufacturers who, you know, we're targeting with the iSH manufacturing cluster to have people on the sprint, apprentices or graduates, industrial placement students, and we found that really beneficial as well.
So the iSH clusters that we're developing, probably every single one of those clusters has got some kind of representation here in the Engineering Centre of Excellence, whether it be robotics, whether it be manufactured products, even digital with the virtual reality. So I think when we take this on the road, as it were, with iSH, and we develop out the enterprise campus, it's going to be a real boon for the area, isn't it? Because it's going to give real focus to that inclusive growth that iSH always says. Doesn't matter about your background, your circumstance, your geography. There's going to be a lot of work in the supply chain for nuclear over the years. And then what we can do, hopefully, then is diversify out of that into other environments as well.
Yeah. I think from what I can see currently, there's more work than UK manufacturing has got the capability and capacity to take on at the minute, and what we need to try and do, particularly in Cumbria where our focus is, Gary, is develop that capability and capacity that we need, and try and, you know, work with the educational system to make sure that we've got, you know, the future skills that we need, but also link in, like, you know, I know we are doing through iSH to the UK wide stuff as well, because there's never been a time like this in the 30 years I've been working in and around manufacturing that we've got a boom potential like this. All the work that's going on in defence, all the work in nuclear decommissioning, there's a lot of aerospace work kicking about at the minute. It's a great time to be in, you know, in these roles and be part of something like iSH.
And, you know, iSH and Sellafield and its supply chain, because there's so much going on, it also, you know, it's always looked to the future, but I think it's probably more important than ever now in terms of those skill sets that will be needed. And, you know, hence the looking at digital, looking at robotics, some of the things that we need now, some of the things we need in the future. And the Engineering Centre of Excellence, bringing people through, exciting them about what the possibilities are in the future. If we then look at levels in Whitehaven in terms of digital, you know, there's the bus station in terms of entrepreneurship. You know, a lot of threads run back to Sellafield's social impact program, and I think the exciting thing about what we're doing is joining up the sort of the need for, you know, whether it's boxes at Sellafield for the future and that social impact program as well. Because you mentioned there you've been in the sort of industry for 30 years, and we'll come to that in a minute because I'm interested in how you get to be head of MPO from, you know, where you came from and so on. But yeah, we're really on the cusp of an exciting time, and if we can join together those local companies to access those opportunities, well, you know, that's the iSH mission all over, isn't it?
Yeah, and I do see some brilliant stuff, Gaz, between, you know, particularly, you know, some of the local companies that we work with quite a lot. You know, we've talked through a few of them: Forth, Core, West Cumberland, Bendals. Them four in particular, I see a lot of they're already looking at some of this stuff on their own, really taking seriously that socio-economic element, and you know, the young people that they're bringing through them organisations. It's great to see, because this can't be all about Sellafield. We need it to be about the supply chain and how we create these jobs that are sustainable as well. You know, there's in defence there's 40-50 years work, and we want Cumbria to be right at the centre of that, I think.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk about West Cymru, you know, what we don't want is that sort of stagnant approach. You know, you've only got to you stay in West Cymru. What you want is opportunities worldwide, don't you? And a lot of those industries that we talk about there, people can move in, people can move out. You know, and kids who are at school today, they've got a long period in front of them where they can access real opportunities worldwide.
Yeah, and the you know, I think, you know, some of the messaging we've had previously, Gary, on iSH, that, you know, people think that it's all about Cumbria and West Cumbria, and yeah, predominantly we want to grow our local capability, but we're also looking for inward investment. I work with supply chain right up to the top and right down to the bottom of the country for the work that we need to complete our mission at Sellafield. So it's not just a Cumbria thing, but obviously both of us, Cumbria born and bred, iSH, part of Cumbria Council, we absolutely want to grow that local capability, and you know, I want to be able to look and see that we've left some kind of legacy with iSH.
So you talked there about Cumberland Council. Cumberland Council own iSH. You know, it's funded by Sellafield and the NDA. And I think it's a real example of collaboration. Everybody talks about collaboration, but when you look at, you know, Cumberland and the nuclear industry working together on joint priorities, which is around inclusive growth, you know, particularly in Cumberland, because it is a social impact program, you must be pleased to see that, you know, all of those organisations are working together. The NDA sees iSH as really important to its mission, because I think there's probably possibilities in the future of the things that we're doing here in West Cumbria rolling out across the NDA estate and then into other industries as well.
Yeah, and we've seen from an MPO perspective as well, just the difference, pulling all that manufacturing into one place has made for Sellafield, rather than projects here and projects over there, all doing little bits slightly differently. And it makes it really, really difficult for the supply chain, because everybody that comes to them is working a slightly different way, and they have to kind of cut the cloth accordingly. I think one of the big bonuses for the supply chain around iSH, particularly on the manufacturing cluster, but it will be the same with the other clusters as well, is if we can get everybody on the same page and get everybody behind what we're trying to do and be part of it, then people will start working the same way, and the sort of the weight that will lift off the supply chain when they're trying to bid for work, etc. It can't be underestimated. It's huge. It costs, you know, tens of thousands of pounds for these companies to bid for work. And, you know, there's a good chance they're not going to get the work when they've put all this effort in. If we can do stuff to simplify that so everybody's working the same way, it must be that, you know, there must be some big benefits there somewhere.
One of the things that we're doing in the next few weeks actually is starting our bid training sort of program of work, using bid base and a local SME through a Cockermouth there. There'll be 10 companies that are going through that in the first cohort, and then another 10. Because one of the things that we've been hearing is, you know, that there is variability in terms of bid into the larger companies from the smaller SMEs.
Yeah, and at the same time, we've got the work going on with iSH and the MPO organisation around upskilling some of the supply chain, helping them bridge any gaps that they've got. I think it's a really exciting program of work, and the feedback from the supply chain so far is really, really good.
Okay, so you mentioned there that you've been in and around this for 30 years. We'll get a bit personal now. Just tell me about how, you know, what's your career journey in terms of how do you get to be head of what is a really exciting program of work with a lot of people sort of working on that program. How do you get there?
Yeah, so it's a funny one, really, Gaz. So I started 1995. Started at Sellafield as a mechanical apprentice. The 4th of September it was. I just received a nice letter for me long service from Ewan through the post, and I worked in and around some of the operational facilities during my apprenticeship, and then there was lots of opportunities at the time, as there is now. So done a bit of further education. Went to Teesside University part-time, sponsored by Sellafield, and done a mechanical engineering degree. And then sort of spent quite a bit of time in engineering, maintenance roles, and a bit of design, predominantly supporting the high-level waste plants at Sellafield. And actually, so I went into high-level waste plants in 1999, and I then moved out of high-level waste plants after working my way up to be the program manager for the overseas returns. Nearly 20 years later, so it was a real sort of broad career in there, but just in one area of the business. And so I've worked out in France quite a bit. Got to see what it's like in Japan as well. And then I've done quite a few years in project management as well in a few areas of the business. Before then, late 2018, moving into retrievals and being the program manager for the pile fuel cladding silo program. Spent a number of years in there, and I had a project that was in a bit of distress on 3-metre box manufacture. And what I should have said earlier, in and around my high-level waste plants career, I was always sort of in and around manufacture of one-off, two-off specialist items. Spent the bulk of my time out in the supply chain doing that. So I kind of got a good insight into all the problems the supply chain perceived Sellafield needed to address. The box project being in distress was just one of them sort of, scenarios that just arises where you think, I've probably got the right skills to sort this out. I spent a number of years doing a lot of work with Stainless Metalcraft, our current box manufacturer, and predominantly trying to work out how we could simplify our requirements and our design to reduce the complexity of the 3-metre box. And by that I mean that the box was designed to meet every assumed requirement possible, because the waste that we were removing from the silos was an unknown entity. Now we know a lot more, so we're working with the supplier to try and relax some of the requirements to make manufacture easy, because it has been really, really hard. When you talk about a 3-metre box, we are talking about a real high integrity duplex stainless steel containment vessel. And for anybody that's tried to work with duplex before, as soon as you put a bit of heat into it, really difficult to predict which way it moves. Really, really difficult. And the guys have done a great job down there to get it as far as it is. We're producing boxes at a reasonable rate to support retrievals. We've never constrained retrievals with supply, but there's going to be a big ramp up in the near future, and that's why we need to bring on more manufacturers to support what we've currently got. And then in about 2.5 years ago, the opportunity came up to run this manufactured products organisation, and I moved into that role. Within about 6 months of working my way through restructuring the manufactured products organisation, they asked me if I would add the Centre of Excellence to my organisation. That again was a really good thing for me, because Craig Branney, who runs the Centre of Excellence, I actually brought Craig off the tools into one of my maintenance teams as an engineer a long time ago now, and so it was really good to see how Craig's career's progressed, and the work that he does in here. And you touched on it a bit before, Gaz. It's buzzing in here every day. We've went from having a facility that was a derelict unit that we started to hire out. We get about 150 people a day through the door. And the only complaints we get are about the volume of traffic now on the industrial estate that was never had any traffic on before we moved here. And even just over the last 18 months, seeing what Craig and the team have done to move this place forward and some of the work they've delivered for site is it's nothing short of impressive. Probably 3 months ago, we've also now moved our on-site, what was known as construction services. So all our on-site manufacturing capability, scaffolding, rigging, and the dive team. So I have Sellafield dive team under me as well, which is a very sort of random thing when you look at all the rest of it. But we've moved that into the centre of excellence because it kind of aligns with the innovative stuff that we're doing. And the dive team provide a great service inspecting our sea lines, and Craig's currently working with them to see, well, what else can we get the dive team to do? They do a lot more than just inspect the sea lines, but there's opportunities to really sort of see what we can do with the dive team in the future as well.
So everything that you've talked about there in terms of your own career and the people you've worked with, what we said issues were about the sort of the doers and the fixers and the problem solvers. So really that's sort of your career history, I suppose, in terms of who you've worked with, and then now looking after the centre of excellence, even with the dive team, and it's the doers and the fixers, isn't it? So yeah. That must be you must be very proud of that.
Yeah, it's good, and it's looking back when you think, I didn't do brilliant at school, and I had to work hard after school, and looking back on it, it's quite surreal how it's all happened. But I'm a big believer in you sort of. I don't think it just happens by accident. You've got to. It's all about the people that you've worked with and the sort of, the sort of shadow they've cast, if you like. And when I was a young engineer, I had a guy who was he was the sort of design authority, the head of the design team at the time, a pay grade 12 in old money gas. He just took a real interest in me, and he was a real interesting guy. And manufacturing, making things, that was his thing. And then it very quickly became my thing. And, I've worked in and around it ever since. And I've been really lucky. Great career. I haven't had to move away from home. It's right on my doorstep. And it's, my sort of steer to anybody would be, don't accept the status quo. And I think Craig's really built that into the sort of ethos here at the Centre of Excellence. And it's really good to see the graduates and people on the sprint programme that we get coming through here. They're really, really big on just not accepting the status quo and really sort of challenging why we can't do things differently. And I guess what I'm saying, I've probably been quite disruptive over the years because I don't just accept what other people might accept. I always try and do things a bit different and shake things up a bit. And I've kind of created a team of people that I also think do that. That's the way I like to work. I think iSH is just another thing that's going to shake things up a bit, and there's some real big opportunities that we talked about earlier.
So if you look at the iSH Enterprise Campus, and I think it's always important, I always say it, iSH isn't just about Cleatamore, but over the next 18 months, we're concentrating on the development of the iSH Enterprise Campus here on Leconfield Estate. When we have that £40 million worth of government investment, and with NDA investment and Sellafield Ltd social impact investment as well, that's going to be a real catalyst for growth in this area, particularly when you align it to what you've said there about your organisation, the need for ramping up on boxes and everything that the company needs. That's going to be a real catalyst for this area, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's one that can create, if we get it right, it can create really good skilled jobs for decades. It's just the cleanup mission at Sellafield. It's huge, and MPO are also So I also chair a thing that we've set up now in NDA space called the Waste Container Management Board. And so we're looking at, again, the same sort of ethos around simplifying things for the supply chain, so it's working one way. We're all the waste containers, historically, we'll have a project at Sellafield or somewhere else in the NDA estate, and the project will be building a new facility to put some waste into storage. As part of that, they might design a new container. Well, the Waste Container Management Board was a driver from NDA to stop all these new waste containers and just try and standardise what we've got. And we're working through with the other opcos now how we can use this board to sort of do it all centrally and have all the manufacturing expertise in one place, which is going to be Sellafield's MPO, and we provide that service to the estate. So it's almost like when we get it right, you'd have a warehouse where there was product. It wouldn't just have to be Sellafield's. The other opcos across the estate can use it. But the key thing will be we'll have one set of principles to work out. We've developed a new product introduction process. The supply chain will get used to working that way. And to start with, all the NDA estate opcos will be using that same way of working, same way of contracting, everything. When we've got it right through iSH, what we'll then get is the other big players in the nuclear industry will start working the same way as well. And we're trying to do a lot of work with Great British Nuclear to see what we can influence to make that happen. We're also doing work with AWE, and it's just everything sort of, it's not, we haven't got a contract with AWE. We're just sharing the learning and the journey that we've been on, because they're about to embark on some of the same things, and you can stop them making the mistakes that we've had by sharing the learning, and it seems to be going well, but I really think iSH can grow that as well.
So there's a national opportunity, international showcase of the capability. So if I'm a company in the nuclear supply chain, whether it's manufacturing, digital, robotics, whatever it might be, what would you say to that company in terms of their engagement with the Industrial Solutions Hub?
Yeah, well, I think absolutely, first and foremost, engage, because it's going to be really important going forward. There's going to be lots of opportunities presented by that. And you just have to look early days, Gaz, when you first come in. And we partnered on the an open day to basically present the pipeline of opportunities that we've got coming. And, we've done the Sellafield MPO and iSH in partnership. That was the best response we'd ever had to an event with the supply chain. And we had suppliers' feedback saying it was the best event they'd been to in 20 years. And so if we get it right and we do more of that, and the supply chain starts seeing the benefits of it, it'll just go from strength to strength, I think.
So that's about opportunity, isn't it? Demonstrating what the opportunity is, and then aligning what the supply chain can offer to that opportunity, which is basically what iSH is here to do in terms of its clusters.
Yeah, and I think the other bit that I would really encourage them to do is, really sort of show off their capability to iSH, because I think we're creating a good platform to get them a platform outside of the country and outside of the UK. Like I touched on earlier, I've worked out in France. I've been out to Japan when I had the overseas program. There's things that we just think are a sort of day job here. There's other countries that are in the nuclear industry that are crying out to have the capabilities that we've got on our doorstep here in Cumbria. And I think there's a big driver where iSH could really help sell that outside, like you touched on before, with some of the engagements that you've got coming up.
Mm-hmm. And already companies like Creator, great local company, innovative SME, but with some real sort of answers to some significant challenges, and that's on our doorstep as well. So what we need to do is we need to get more of that. We need to get more of opportunity within the UK as well. And then hopefully over time, we can help with diversification, because as we keep on saying, we don't want to just be reliant on Sellafield as an area, but we've got to sweat that really significant asset in order to then, grow our companies into other areas as well.
Yeah, and with some of the innovative stuff that we're looking at, particularly in robotics and digital, everybody knows the position the government are at the minute. We need to do lots of work to save money. We need to do more for less.
Well, we've talked a lot there about work and your sort of career journey and what we're doing here in Claytonmere and beyond. Who's Gareth outside of work? I understand that you're a bit of an athlete like myself.
I wouldn't have went that far, Gaz, but I like to do triathlons. Spend a lot of my spare time out on the fells with my wife and the dogs. A lot of people say that I like dogs better than people. That's true in quite a lot of
Don't
it.
answer back.
Yeah. They're always pleased to see you when you get home, and they're out, the dogs. But I like the sports that I like to do and my sort of life. That's why I like living here in West Cumbria. It's that everything that I want is on my doorstep.
So one of the key things in terms of the iSH strategy is around inclusive growth, and that means that whatever your background, circumstance, academic performance, that shouldn't preclude you from all of the opportunities that are coming up in nuclear and its supply chain and beyond. So a lot of the stuff that we're doing with the likes of UTC in Workington, likes of Lakes College, which are real hands-on sort of work with kids who can work for the next 40, 50 years across a wide variety of different disciplines. And I think that's something that the Engineering Centre of Excellence really does well, doesn't it?
Yeah. We're already linked into them organisations and others. But we have a good relationship with UTC and Lakes College. And I think it's really important, the bit that you touched on, Gaz, about the sort of it's the people that might not get a chance normally. We have a lot of people where the parents work at certain places, which means their kids then get opportunities. This is all about targeting the people that might not be aware of the opportunities that are out there. And I've been up to the UTC a couple of times lately, and it's compared to when I went to school, what we had at school, it's really impressive how they've set that place up to really hone in on hands-on skills. It's good to see. And
I've listened to you and Hutton on several occasions now talk about that. How do we get to the kids who, don't really know about the nuclear industry, they don't have family working at Sellafield, and Ewan's very, very strong on that, so almost broadening the supply base into what is a mission for 100 years.
Absolutely, we do. And I know, some of the iSH team get involved in these with us, but we do. Claire O'Connor, who runs that side of it for Craig in our facility, they do things like kids in care days where, foster parents will bring the kids, and Ewan's a real big advocate of that as well, and often attends the days, and they get a great turnout for them. The Christmas one, especially, you could maybe come, Gaz, and be Father Christmas for us.
I'll grow my beard a bit more. Listen, it's been great talking to you, not only about your sort of work life, but about what you do outside of work, because people don't often talk about, outside of work. So as our first guest, absolutely brilliant. Really appreciate you coming along, and thank you very much.
Spot on. Thanks for having us.